Hello, my name is Ashley Clarke, and I will be discussing if the U.S. law should permit using torture tactics against detainees related to the War on Terror. According to the National Journal, President Obama has defended releasing the CIA memos which proved that torture tactics were being used during the Bush administration. Obama called waterboarding torture. Waterboarding is an enhanced interrogation technique which stimulates the feeling of drowning on the victim. One memo showed that CIA interrogators use waterboarding at least 266 times against suspected Al-Qaeda leaders to get a confession. During the Bush administration, the top lawyers from the country, from the Justice Department, drafted paperwork to authorize the use of such enhanced interrogation techniques. These documents were endorsed by the Attorney General, as stated in the Harvard International Law Journal. The U.S. attended the Geneva Convention and signed treaties against torture in the past for a reason. Our country believes that every human is entitled to certain fundamental rights. The U.S. signed Article 3 of the Convention Against Torture and Other Cruel or Degrading Treatment or Punishment. The U.S. had a struggle with how to fight the war on terror, simply because there is no clear enemy in no specific place. We don't know where to find the enemy. The President's advisors came up with a desperate way to fight. Supporters of using torture on detainees argue that there is typically time-sensitive information that could save innocent civilian lives. There may be a ticking time bomb about to go off. The affirmative position asserts that the end justifies the means, which basically says that as long as you're saving innocent lives, it doesn't matter what you do in the process to save them. This justification for such abuse of basic human rights is flawed. Torture is not new or creative. It is an old, barbaric method that our highly advanced nation should be done with. More accurate and useful information can be gathered from the detainee's property at the time of the arrest. If the U.S. withdraws our ban on torture, we are lowering ourselves below our enemies and becoming the terrorists. The U.S. must remain the leader and example nation. We must not become the terrorists by stooping to these degrading interrogation tactics. There are moral tactics available as an alternative to torture. The U.S. must take advantage of the intelligence that we have available in our country. We can monitor terrorist groups. We can monitor arms sales. Okay. If the U.S. law permits torture, then it will be an acceptable interrogation tactic all across the board. Everyone who is arrested could be subject to enhanced interrogation techniques, and the interrogators who use torture will not have to stand on trial for this inhuman technique. The harm done to our country's fundamental beliefs would be severe if we authorized torture, as long as it was in the name of saving lives. Our allies might not want to fight alongside us in wars if they know that when we capture the enemy, we will torture the prisoners. The U.S. must not allow the use of torture against detainees in its effort to obtain information on the so-called war on terror. The U.S. should continue to uphold its ban on torture. Torture is immoral, and the U.S. should not participate in immoral acts. Torture opposes justice. Thank you for your time.